Hello and welcome to another episode of Google's SEO Office Hours. In these videos, we aim to answer your questions about SEO and Google search. These questions were submitted using the form linked below over the past month. To answer them, we have folks from Google's search quality team. Joining us today is just me. With various bits of travel and vacation, it's just me here for this episode. Luckily, Martin was able to write up some answers before he went on vacation, and Gary had time to review everything. So now I have a bunch of questions and some answers lined up for you. Let's get started. I am confused about how many URLs a sitemap index file can have. An XML sitemap file can have up to 50,000 URLs, and that also applies for sitemap index files. Sitemap index files only include other sitemap files. Check out our sitemap documentation for more information. Mikhail asks, does Google see and consider ARIA label name and other ARIA label accessibility attributes? Does setting ARIA attributes improve SEO? Well, there's no inherent SEO advantage to making a website look like it has accessibility features. Instead, use accessibility features for accessibility reasons. There are enough users that rely on these features to make it worthwhile, even without any direct SEO effect. Instead of artificially using accessibility features like ARIA labels, use them properly. Hakan asks, should I redirect canonicalized domain/en to just domain? Or is being canonicalized enough already? Well, there's no SEO advantage to be gained here, but it's useful to be consistent. If the version without language code is a default version and the same as one of the language codes, then you can set it as the xdefault in hreflang. Being consistent with canonicalization and internal linking will also usually result in that version being selected as the canonical. This makes it easier for your work since it's more consistent for tracking. It doesn't have an SEO effect, though. Mikhail asks, do the elements of the link after a hashtag in a URL affect how it's displayed in the search results? Usually no. That thing is called a fragment, and it's used to link to a specific part of the content of a page. Google Search looks at the whole page, though, so it's usually ignored. But it might be useful to help users to jump to the relevant part of the page directly. There are URLs where we figure out that the fragment has been used to display different content, but it's very rare and not a recommended practice, and Google Search will usually ignore URL fragments. Why is my site not ranking despite low competition and good SEO? I have a sitemap, I have index pages, updated content, backlinks, and on-page optimization. But my site is still not in the top 200 results for my keywords. I see this kind of question often. Google tends to focus on various technical aspects when it comes to talking about SEO, but you need to do more. A good way to think about this is to compare it to the offline world. When it comes to books, does a good cover photo, reasonable sentence length, few misspellings, and a good topic mean that the book will become a bestseller? Or as a restaurant, does using the right ingredients and cooking in a clean kitchen mean you'll get a lot of customers? Technical details are good to cover well, but there's a lot more involved in being successful. Anton asks, how can I see if my newly bought site has a penalty? You can see the current status of manual actions in Search Console once you've verified ownership of the site. This information is visible to all verified owners. Manual actions that have expired or which are resolved are not listed there. When a manual action is resolved, the effect generally goes away fairly quickly. Keep in mind that our algorithms can also react to significant quality issues without a manual action being involved. Igor asks, is it okay to use product-rich snippet for real estate properties? Well, I checked with the team on this. When it comes to Google Shopping, if you look at the unsupported content Merchant Center help article, it lists immovable objects, like real estate, as being unsupported. In practice, what will happen in cases like this is that we just ignore the markup. Using product structure data for real estate isn't seen as abuse, but it also has no effect. My recommendation would be to use structured data which has a visible effect, such as using product structure data for things that can be shown as products in search. Alex asks, can hreflang be used to link content that is very similar but targeted at different countries, even if they aren't direct translations? For example, a company might sell chocolate candy in multiple countries, but their ingredients might vary slightly. Yes, you can. hreflang is for alternate language or regional versions. It's not specifically for localization, though it can be. For more information on hreflang, I'd check out the documentation on international websites. Zaid asks, can we use a white font but on a colored background? Sure. Just make sure it has a good contrast so your users can actually read it. Carlos asks, does the use of an article HTML tag have an impact on Google? Is it better to put the content of a product listing page in an article tag? The article HTML element does not have any particular effect in Google search. This is similar to lots of other kinds of HTML tags. There's so much more to using HTML than just Google search. Sometimes there are accessibility or semantic reasons to use a specific kind of markup, so don't only focus on SEO. Marcus asks, on our website, we have a mix of relative and absolute links. Is this a problem for SEO? Well, search engines look at links like a browser would, so there would be no difference there. If you're curious about links in general, you can check out our links best practices documentation. Bastian asks, for structured data on a French website, should we write the opening days in the English language or French language for a French website? Great question. For most text-based structured data, you should match what you show users on the page. However, some structured data uses so-called enumerated fields, which means you need to specify it exactly. This is the case for day-of-week data, which must list the names of the days in English as documented in the schema.org specification. In short, even if your site is in another language, and you show the opening hours in that language, then for structured data, you would use the names in English. Fan asks, is the IP address, and then there's an IP address, a Google crawler? Our website received a huge traffic volume today from this. Well, no, that IP address is not from Google. One way to check it is to do a reverse DNS lookup for the IP address to get the host name, and then to look up the host name to confirm the IP address. We have this covered in our documentation. Another way to get an approximation is to use one of the online Whois services and to check the registration details there. In this case, it maps to a Hong Kong-based cloud provider. Unfortunately, some scrapers use Googlebot user agents in an attempt to trick sites. It's fine to block these from our point of view. Hans asks, does Google treat link prefetch, pre-render, DNS resolve, etc. tags as a signal that the website is attempting to give its users a good user experience? So when these things are used correctly, so that your users benefit from a better experience, then this will be reflected in real user metrics for the core web vitals and as such, be considered by search as well. What matters for Google is not that a website is attempting to give users a good page experience, but rather if it is actually giving users a good page experience. Make sure that what you implement is functional. Why does the Google cache page show a 404 error for my site? So there can be many reasons for this, and we've talked about this in the past a few times already. Generally, the cache doesn't matter when it comes to indexing. It's not a technical SEO tool. Use Search Console if you want to diagnose the status of a URL. Dylan asks, it seems that Google's crawler is confused or being tricked. We have a bunch of online gambling websites appearing on our domain that appear to originate from Google smartphone crawlers. So the important thing to keep in mind is that Google doesn't make up content for indexing. It uses what your site provides. If you're seeing online gambling content in the search results for your site, and your site generally isn't about online gambling, well, then that's still what your server is providing. If you didn't place that content there yourself, then it's very likely that your server or something in your infrastructure was hacked. Resolving the hack and securing the site properly can be hard. So if this is your first time, it's good to get help from others. Recognizing this can also be tricky. I recommend setting up a Google alert for a site query with your domain name, together with keywords often used on spammy or hacked content. We have more tips on handling hacked websites in our documentation. I hope this helps. And that was it for this episode. I hope you found the questions and answers useful. If there's anything you submitted which didn't get covered here, I'd recommend posting in the Search Central help community. There are lots of passionate experts active there who can help you to narrow things down. And of course, if there's more on your mind, please submit those questions with the form link below. Your questions here are useful to us and to those who catch up on these recordings, so please keep them coming. If you have general feedback about these episodes, let us know in the comments or ping us on social media. In the meantime, may your site's traffic go up and your crawl errors go down. Thank you, and see you soon. Bye.